Dámy a páni, Gawdat príde o chvíľu a o tom to bude hovoriť.
Even my willfully low-tech life as a journalist has been completely transformed by computers. You wouldn't believe how backward things were for a reporter way back in the late 20th century.
When I was a lad, it wasn't just the hairstyles that were different. To get copy to press, you had to dictate your article to a copy typist who sent it to a sub-editor who checked and edited it with his blue pencil before handing it on to the pictures editor who, after doing picture editing things, passed it on to a layout editor who decided on a page for the article. Next, off it went to the printers. First, the page was made up in a flatbed and proofs taken, then a mould was made, which was turned via the mysteries of hot metal into a print roller. Finally, the presses rolled. At last. Today, however, things are a bit different.
I've just written a newspaper column on this laptop while flying across the Pacific Ocean. And now I'm going to email it via satellite to London for tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. For yesterday's paper. It is, it's yesterday's. That makes your head hurt. Anyway, it's gone.
Today, all those copy typists, editors, printers and so on are replaced by Jerry and his computer. Jerry subs, Jerry lays out and Jerry sends the page to press. Jerry does everything in a fraction of the time.
So, thanks to the computer, a man in Penzance can now read something that I wrote the day before, 35,000 feet above New Zealand. And do you know what the most amazing thing about that is? That we take it for granted.
Thank you for the intro. I heard that you guys like Top Gear like I do, so I found that video. There must be like 4 million similar videos. Actually, I'm sure every one of you has a story of your life of something that you used to do in a very strange way. And then now with technology, it's quite easy. So when I joined Google 6 years ago, and when I joined, they told me when we open an event like this, we have to have a very serious presentation because these are very serious customers. I realized that actually I have my colleagues who will do that. I will just entertain you, to be very honest. So I will try to tell you how the world is changing. When you see how the world is changing from inside Google, it's actually quite interesting because it gives you a little bit of a glimpse of things to come, not only things that have passed. And if I manage to entertain you a little bit and get you to think about the world that we live in today and the world that we will live in maybe 5 years' time, I think I will have achieved my objective. The other thing what we thought of doing is we gave you those little nice cards. So I was in Sofia last week, and we had another Google Day. And the best part of the Google Day is actually when we spoke about what you wanted, not what we wanted. So if you have any question whatsoever, especially the tough ones to Google, write them on the back of the card, raise your hand, and somebody will pick it up. If it's too tough, we will cut it and throw it away. If it's a good question, we will just answer it. Okay? So, this is really the sign of our time. When you think about how life is, we take everything for granted. And I know, so anybody who's older than 30 in this room? Ladies, hands down. Yeah, anybody? Okay, so you must have seen what happened in the last 20 years, right? And what happened in the last 20 years is just scary if you think about it from a technology point of view. The thing is, we just take it for granted. We just, they introduce something new like the iPad, and we're like, yeah, it's a big iPod. No, it's not a big iPod. We introduce things like smartphones that are more powerful than any computer I've ever had growing up. And we're saying, yeah, but it's a little too thick, right? And it's somehow funny for somebody that grew up using mainframes like I did to think that we take those things for granted. Let me show you a few. In the last 15 years alone, all of that happened. To be accurate, it would probably be around 20 years. Mobile phones, Blu-ray discs, Xboxes, digital cameras, iPads, iPods, Facebook, Google, Twitter, Android, Kinect, Wii, and we even landed on Mars, right? And somehow we take all of this and we say, cool, okay, yeah, what's for dinner? And I think the idea is, when you start to think about all of those things, you really have to start getting captured by the idea of, one, why are things moving so fast? And two, why are we taking it for granted? Why is it that, you know, we're so hard to impress anymore, right? And I'll start with the second one. I think a big part of why we take things for granted is just because of how fast things are. Because, you know what, I honestly know there will be another Android that will come out next quarter, you know, so this fantastic piece of technology is like just another one. Right? And I know that somehow the human brain sort of filters. You know, if you're crossing the street, you start to filter all of the little things that are happening around you. You know, if there is a couple of kids playing on the side, you really still need to focus on the car so that you can cross. Maybe if a pretty lady is passing by, it takes a little bit of your attention, but otherwise you're just totally focused. And this is what we're doing. We're focusing on our life, and all of this is becoming background. Okay? More importantly, and I think this you will find this quite eye-opening, that there are two types of technologies. There is what we call a revolutionary technology, and there is an evolutionary technology. Right? Revolutionary is when we create something totally from scratch, something that never happened before. And evolutionary is all those little improvements that you add to a technology that already exists. Let me give you a few examples. When we create the camera, right? The camera is that thing that captures reality in one snapshot and keeps it for you to remember forever. From the day we created the camera until the year 2000, in the year 2000, every camera on Earth, every press reporter, hobbyist, family member, whoever, created 80 billion pictures in the year 2000. Then cameras evolved, and one of the evolutions was digital cameras, right? And the proliferation of digital cameras in mobile phones specifically. Last year, we created 350 trillion pictures, from 80 billion, which is a big number, from the revolutionary technology, to 350 trillion from the evolutionary, sorry, 3.5 trillion from the evolutionary move, okay? So this also applies to the printing press. Before the printing press, knowledge was only available for nobility. Then we go and start to print using the printing press, and everybody has books, and everybody now has access to information. And we all notice that. We all notice that difference. We don't notice the Kindle. Okay, so Amazon in May 2011 announced that Amazon is the largest bookseller on earth. They announced in May 2011 that half of their books are being sold on Kindle. Okay, so half of the books of the largest reseller on earth are sold on Kindle. We just don't notice it because it's evolutionary, not revolutionary. Now, the other side of it is why is it moving so fast? And believe me, it is moving fast. I mean, in Google, the only way for me to find out about the product that's going to be launched tomorrow is to read it in the news. This is how fast things are. We are not even able to keep up with the technology we are creating. Now, the reason is because we're creating more and more power from a resources point of view that we use to build those technologies. I love cars. Any car lovers here? Oh, come on. Okay, I'm not presenting that. All right, a few. Right? So if you look at Ferrari, which I think is a success story in the automobile industry, the 166, the car on the side, on the bottom there, that was the supercar of the 50s, and it had 110 horsepower. They've just announced the F12 a few quarters ago. The F12 is the fastest, is the most powerful Ferrari ever made, 740 horsepower. So if you think about it, this was the evolution of engine power that Ferrari created, which is extremely impressive. When you think about it, it's around 6x where the industry was just 50 years ago. Now compare that to the industry we live in. And take things like Moore's law, okay? The processing power is going through a curve that looks like this, right? I don't know how many of you would remember the 8088, the first Intel processor in a computer, that had 5 megahertz on it. 5 megahertz, and we had that button that said turbo. So we could double 5 megahertz and make it 10 megahertz. So it was actually 477, if you remember, right? The recent one is 3.5 gigahertz. If you actually take processor count, look at that. It's 26,000 times the first processor, only back in 1985 or 1979, right? Now, with that exponential growth of power that is going to continue, we believe we will double at the same price every year going forward. The resources that we have available for us are becoming tremendous, and I will show you some of the uses that we use that for. Now, look at it from another point of view. There are two types of technologies. There are technologies that build products, like cement. Believe it or not, there was a point in time where somebody invented cement, and it was an innovation. Wow, rocks in a bag, and I can add water and it becomes a rock. That's amazing. That's an amazing technology. And they took that and they built buildings with it, right? They didn't build more cement. There are technologies, however, that are building technologies. So I don't know how many of you know about our machine learning code. We build code that actually goes out and measures behaviors on on usage on the internet, and from that behavior we build better code. And that exponential cycle is actually driving a tremendous amount of innovation. Now, I'll give you one example of that. I told you the processing power. Recently, anybody who loves computers will be always fascinated about artificial intelligence. And every artificial intelligence code that's ever been written had what we call a prompt in it. We would go to the artificial intelligence code and we say, look, a bottle looks like this. Go out and try to learn where is bottles on the internet. What we did is we took 16,000 computers in an experiment recently in Project X inside Google, and we asked them to watch YouTube videos. Happy computers, really. It's not a very difficult job. So 16,000 of them started to watch all of the YouTube videos that we have. And one of them came up like a week later and said, I found something, and I'm not exaggerating here. It found cats. It said this thing is available on the web quite often, on YouTube quite often. I don't really know what it is, but I know that it's something, and I can actually form it out. And we said, okay, go, find more cats. And it could find every cat on YouTube. Now, when you think about that unprompted AI, it's becoming unbelievable that we are actually allowing computers to teach themselves. And I know this sounds a little bit like science fiction, but it is very true that if we were just talking about graduation projects, me and Toffee, where people would actually write code that plays chess. And one good way to teach your computer to learn and become a little better at chess is to have it play against another computer and learn. And computers can do that in a millisecond, the whole game, and learn and become better and better and better. And I think what's happening in our technology, because it's not a physical technology where we're building stuff, our technology is actually building technology. We use machine learning code to learn more technology and so on. Now, that's number two. Number three is that this whole revolution in itself is actually creating something that is driving innovation to a very, very different level. I call it the democracy of technology. So over the last 15 years, if you remember, growing up, I had a challenge with the theory of hydraulics, because there was one book in the university library. I had to book it, and then they would say, come back in 2.5 weeks at 11:30 a.m. And I would actually stand there like it's my date. Seriously, wait for that book, and then I have it for half an hour. That was it. My son today has access to everything. No difference whatsoever between my son and a Harvard graduate or a Harvard student, right? Every piece of knowledge that a Harvard student has, he has access to it. We call that the democracy of information. Okay, for you to just be aware of what's happening here. Between the dawn of humanity until the year 2003, the total knowledge on Earth was valued at 5 exabytes, right? Last year, we built, in terms of the technology that, the knowledge that was uploaded to the web, whether it's information, pictures, articles, research, whatever, we built what is worth 1,800 billion trucks of books. Okay? This was all uploaded to the web, and believe it or not, it was searchable. So people ask us questions, more than 4 billion questions every day, and we answer you in a microsecond saying, yeah, if you're looking for the theory of this and that in this and certain knowledge category, yeah, here are 400 articles for you to read. Now that democracy of information and the ability to answer in microseconds is really something that is changing the landscape of how people can innovate. Information is power, and if you give people more information, they will innovate and create better technology. The other one is what I call the democracy of tools. I think the best example of that is YouTube. So I don't know how many of you are aware. We get more than 60 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute of every day. The reason we do that is because all of you have phone cameras, have digital cameras, and have video cameras. And you know, if you remember the movie Paranormal Activities, you know that movie in the late Hollywood years would be a multi-million-dollar production that requires crews and so on. It could be shot with a hand camera if you want, right? And more you're getting videos on YouTube that gets millions and hundreds of millions of views just with a simple phone camera. The Arab Spring, I think, was a great example of that, where most of the reporting happened by reporters that carried phone cameras and reported on YouTube. Now, if you think about just a statistic to put things in perspective, every month, the amount of video that's uploaded to YouTube is equal to all the video produced by all American TV networks over the last 60 years. So every month, we produce as much as all of America in 60 years. That's because of the democracy of tools. The third one is what we call democracy of access, okay? And democracy of access is not only about the fact that there are more mobile phones in India than toilets, for example. So this, you know, everybody has so much access to technology, to technology that it's really prompting some of the real basic needs of humans. But it's even more than that. You have access to the brains of others through crowdsourcing. If I come up with a good iPhone app idea today, and I don't know how to code for the iPhone, I could find somebody in Ukraine somewhere, send him a little piece of description, and within 3 days he will develop it for me. Right? There is really no limit on what I can create if I can go crowdsourcing. There is no limit on the funding I can get if I can go into, again, the funding through crowdsourcing or crowdfunding as they call it, and so on. There is no limit on translation if I can send some things to somebody to translate for me, and so on and so forth. So this democracy of access, democracy of information, democracy of tools is turning the page from the time where only the highest skilled computer scientists in the world could produce something maybe in Silicon Valley to production that's happening across the world. And if you look at the App Store and the Google Play and so on, a lot of the products are not coming from the normal places, which actually drives what Larry Page calls internally we use this statement a lot. We think that this is the time for what we call a healthy disregard of the impossible, or for the impossible. We do not believe that there are the same limitations on innovation and creation that we had back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We think that the only limit to innovation and creation now is really your imagination and your ability to navigate the world of resources that's available for all of us to try and create something that hasn't been created before. Now, you put all of that together and you come to the title of my presentation. Because if there is a healthy disregard for the impossible, then everything that you can think of can be invented. And I don't say that lightly. I am telling you, I am living in a world where everything you can think of can be invented, which is not good news for sci-fi lovers, because I actually cannot think of many things that I saw growing up as a young person in sci-fi movies that has not been invented. Now, there are a few that haven't been yet, but I actually believe they're very possible. And that is really the message of my presentation for you. Let's go through a few of them very quickly. Martin Cooper invented the mobile phone in 1972 in Motorola, or it was the first produced mobile phone. It was 1 kilo in weight, and we all loved it. And it completely changed the world. It completely changed the life of every one of you, including myself. And Motorola was really an innovator in that landscape for a long time. If you remember the StarTech, the first clamshell phone that they made, that was really a huge success for Motorola. That actually was not invented in the 90s. It was invented in Star Trek in 1968. So all of us, let's just get a feel if this presentation is going to be interesting. Any science fiction fans in the room? Oh, okay, I'm talking to the wrong audience, right? Okay, so you know, this is one. Tablets have completely changed the world. The first tablet was in Space Odyssey, 1968. Okay, and you know, even though we take tablets for granted, it was an idea that basically inspired somebody to create something like the iPad or the Galaxy Tab 10.1. And those guys, or the Nexus 7, which every Googler loves, even though I don't have one for some reason. And those, you know, there are 34 million of those sold in 2011 alone. That was very eye-opening for me. Anybody remembers a Minority Report 2002?
Look at this kid.
I was at Microsoft at the time, and I thought, wow, that's a very interesting user interface.
So? This one is on the right.
I think Tom Cruise overdoes it a little with the look on his face and the seriousness, but I actually think she does too. So 2002, it's science fiction. 2006, it's 2008, it's a product. The first launch of Kinect was had 8 million units sold in the first 60 days, which is the Guinness Book of World Record for any electronic gadget. And it is so widely spread. There are 18 million Kinects around the world with that user interface. Of course, anybody who loves science fiction would know that video conferencing has been cluttering science fiction all through our youth. You know, the Jetsons was a good example, but there are hundreds of them. And of course, all of you, I hope, use video conferencing somehow. I mean, whether on a Hangout or on a, an iPhone app or on a Gtalk app or whatever. My favorite day of the week is when my assistant allows me to do my meetings from a coffee shop, and on my little Galaxy Tab, I basically speak to anybody from, over a simple Wi-Fi network. Now, that actually goes to another level now with Hangouts, where basically people can video conference with the world. This was the Barack Obama Hangout, which only does not speak to hundreds of people through the Hangout, but also records it and puts it on YouTube. That level of being everywhere through video conferencing, I think, is becoming something very eye-opening. That was one of my favorites, iRobot. So the self-driving car has also been a fancy for a lot of science fiction lovers. I think the first was 1989 Batman, but there were many before that. There was one by Sylvester Stallone, I don't remember, Judge Dredd or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, this is a long video, but I'll leave you to enjoy that. It's something we're very proud of.
Good morning, Steve. Hey, Nathaniel, how are you? Doing just great. Go ahead, Steve.
Auto driving.
Here we go. Away we go. Look, Ma, no hands. No hands anywhere. No hands, no feet. No hands, no feet. No nothing. I love it. So we're here at the stop sign. Yep. Car's using the radars and laser to check and make sure there's nothing coming either way. I find myself looking. Old habits die hard, man. Hey, they don't die. Hey, anybody up for a taco? Yeah. What do you want to do today, Steve? I'm all for Taco Bell myself. All right. Well, let's go get a taco at the drive-thru. And we're turning into the parking lot. How neat. Go. Now we kind of creep along here. Does anybody have any money? I've got money. No, I've got my wallet right here. You rolled.
So I'll mute for a second and tell you about some of the numbers behind this. This car has driven more than 300,000 miles without a single accident. It is, we're now training it for unusual conditions like snow and, you know, changes in the traffic approaches during construction and so on. The trick here is that with the technology we have today in terms of Google Maps, location, GPS, optical recognition and character recognition and stuff like that, we can literally make driving cars a lot safer. 90% of accidents happens as a result of human error. Now those cars can simply eliminate that. And I think if you put all of that together, we actually started to get licenses for that. So California now is licensed for self-driving cars. So we hope to start seeing some of those cars coming out there. And we believe that it would completely change the life of many people, like this one here.
I need to go when I need to do those things.
Now, when Sergey Brin spoke about the self-driving cars the first time, you know, a lot of us in the skeptics in the company would say, hey, you know, come on, we're an information company, there is a lot of success in search and so on. And I think it's a great example of how Google thinks of things. You know, it is something that you know, solves a problem for millions of people, and if it works really well, it really has a huge impact on the world, and we will find a way to make money from that, hopefully a few years down the line. But also, I think I'm now starting to open your eyes to the idea of imagination, because the automobile industry is an industry that is 150 years old, or at least 120 years old, and you need to now start having the courage to say, hey, you know what? It can be a little better, okay? And I think if you start to imagine, you start to do those things. Another one that I am a personal fan of, there is the RoboCop type, but there is also the Back to the Future type. You have glasses that tell you everything about what's happening in the world. So those, again, happened in a lot of science fiction movies. We have those now, and they're actually quite cool.
Meet me in front of Strand Books at 2. Oh man, really? Hey there, guy. Hey there, little guy. Sweet. Remind me to buy tickets for Monsieur Gano tonight. Where's the music section? Oh, yes, this is it. Is Paul here yet? Huh. Hey, dude, how's it going?
Want to go check out that new place I was telling you about?
Sure.
This truck's really good.
Hey, just a second. Cool.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, man.
Got a new place in Oxford City.
See you, dude. Whoa, cool. Take a photo of this. Share it to my circles. Oh, I'm running late. Music, stop.
Hi, what's up?
Hey,
Hey.
you want to say something cool?
Yeah, sure. Is that a ukulele?
Yep. Okay, here goes.
That's beautiful.
So, music. So Project Glass is something we're very committed to make happen, and it's not only about us making glass, but it's the whole concept of perpetual computing, that you're all connected all the time, and that you're able to really use sort of an auxiliary brain all the time, something that helps you, get access to anything that you want when you need it. Normally, again, one of the things that you need to understand about innovation in the world we live in is that Google might start something and somebody else picks it up and delivers something that is a little nicer, and then there is that whole cycle of competition that gets those things forward. So really, when you see one of those prototypes happening, you realize there is a very significant shift happening in the world of technology. I could stop here. I think you get the message, but there are a few that I like. I wouldn't move them away. So Universal Translator was the favorite of most of us sci-fi junkies. The ability for somebody to speak in a certain language and somebody else to understand it. 1968, I think, was the only time that it appeared in Star Trek. It was in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in 1978. Yes, I know it sounds silly, but we love it. But anyway, it's happening big time. We translate on Google Translate today. We translate more than 60 languages, 23 of them in spoken format. So you can actually speak to your phone in one language and hear the answer on the other side in another language. We translate more than 200 million pages a day. So every day we actually translate more than 1 million books worth. And it is quite reliable, and because of machine learning and machine intelligence, the more we teach it, the more it becomes better. Very, very interesting, part of Google's mission, because we said we want to make the world's information universally accessible and useful, and by actually having all information in all languages accessible to all people in all languages, that's really part of the mission, and it's working really well. One last one that fascinates me personally.
I believe it's a molecular synthesizer of some kind, similar to a protein resequencer, but far more advanced. To water, cold.
Mo, come on, you're pushing it a little bit here. So, I'm actually not pushing it at all. So we now have, anybody aware of 3D printers? So some of the projects...
Science fiction replicator to replicate tools. A tool on Earth, all of a sudden it appears in space. That would be pretty cool, but we don't have that yet.
Or do we? Theoretical physicist David Kaplan has found a company that replicates tools, and pretty much anything else you can imagine, with a 3D copy machine.
I'm in Burlington, Massachusetts at the Z Corporation, where they've developed a new technology that's similar to those replicators you see in sci-fi movies. It's called 3D printing. I'm here to find out if they can 3D print my crescent wrench.
We're one of the world's leading manufacturers of three-dimensional printers. Everything on the table in front of us has been printed in one of the machines behind us.
Printed?
Yes.
Okay.
Most printers will print things in 2 dimensions. A 3-dimensional printer will then take that to the 3rd dimension and make it something you hold in your hand.
Okay, I don't get it. And this?
That's just an example of the complexity of the things that you can make.
This moves.
It moves, and it was printed all as one piece.
This came out of a printer just like this.
Came out of a printer just like that.
True science fiction. So watch out for this video on YouTube. Basically, at the end of the video, he copies his wrench and prints it somewhere else. So imagine if you're in a space station somewhere and you literally print a tool. Now, all of that stuff we may have thought of as differently when we were watching science fiction, but it is actually happening. So if all of this is happening, then why don't we start imagining what else can happen? Teleportation, do you think, is possible? Just raise your hand if you think so. Okay, now we have a few believers. I don't know if we can make it happen in real world where I can actually take you, and put you here. But you do actually have a lot of your life now on the Facebooks and the Second Lives of the world and so on. And when you put all of that together, you get to the point where you have the ability at a point in time to create avatars that actually move around the web, not necessarily in real life, but you could be in several places at the same time. My favorite actually is time travel. Do you guys think time travel is possible? You do? Okay, now we have a few believers, but not too many. The room is quite quiet. I don't know if I'm boring you or you're shocked, but anyway, if you look at the video here, this is a technology we have on Google Maps where we take all the user-posted pictures of any place in the world, and we stitch them together to create a three-dimensional view of the world. And this is a technology that's available today. It's in 2D if you want, because it has pictures in it. Imagine if we have all those Google Glasses and people start to post videos of what happened in this room, and it's posted on the web freely. You could probably in 20 years' time to say, I want to go back to 2012 and be in the event that was in Bratislava, and you could probably time travel. I don't know if we can capture the dinosaur time, but I'm sure that this time is available in YouTube in the future. I hope we don't get the thingy from Men in Black. I want to remember everything. I think it was really cool. I definitely do not want Click. That's not a great idea. I hope we don't get, you know, Terminator and all the other ones. In general, I have to say most science fiction will have to have a plot that is a little scary, because, you know, this is how news sells and movies sells. There has to be a little bit of excitement. I'm hoping that we will end up with something a little more like the Jetsons. So with that, I stop. I don't think we have time for questions. Do we have time for questions? We do. Okay. Well, what I'll say before we go for questions, guys, is that please understand that we have not even started. I will tell you this very courageously. I think we have not even started. I think Winston Churchill says that very well. It's not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end. This is perhaps the end of the beginning. In the next 5 to 10 years, you and I are going to see some real science fiction. So with that, we go to questions.
I have one question.
You do already?
Yes.
Okay.
What do we have for dinner?
We have for dinner, we have music. We have music, and we have a good party, and we have a lot of, I don't know, what do we have for dinner? Good food? No. Good food.
No, I just wanted to say that we don't take for granted your presentation. It was very impressive. And now we're trying to communicate with the people here. Máte nejaké otázky, dámy a páni, na nášho hostia?
Okay. I'm never going to make this presentation again.
Wait. No, people, I think they are impressed.
So, no, I think people are like, okay, are we scared?
Is this a strange guy?
Is he real, or is he one of those avatars that Larry makes and sends across the world? So, yeah. Okay, guys. I was told, actually, that you know, people in Slovakia will actually ask questions. I was a little worried that you will not. So it's now up to you to prove. Going once.
No, it's the first time we saw a presentation, you know. So.
Okay, going twice. Very good. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Ďakujem veľmi pekne, Mo, Gawdat.